The Angels are swept again as a stellar Griffin Canning outing is spoiled by more bullpen struggles. We'll discuss the Angels' 5-1 defeat to the Seattle Mariners on today's edition of the Locked On Angels Postcast.
You are Locked On Angels Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Los Angeles, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Angels Postcast, coming at you live, as always, after every single Angels game, right here on the Locked On Los Angeles YouTube channel, and after the fact, wherever you get your Locked On Angels podcast feed. 5-1 the final here, the Sunday matinee game on Lou Gehrig's Day, as the Mariners sweep the Angels with a 5-1 defeat for our Halos. Hello, Halo Nation. Hello, Halo hopefuls. And I don't know how you can be hopeful right now, to be honest, because it's another game. We expected this series to be great pitching from the Mariners against a subpar Angels lineup. But boy, did we get that today and yesterday. Of course, the Angels avoid the shutout thanks to some ninth inning foolishness by the Mariners, to be honest. But another pitching duel. Griffin Canning with a great start going against Luis Castillo, but the Angels just can't get anything done. And in this one, the bullpen spoils Canning's outing with a disastrous eighth inning. So on it's more of the day still. On today's show, we will discuss that Canning start spoiled by the bullpen. We'll discuss another awful performance from the Angels lineup, and then we'll just jump straight to previewing the Padres series, because to be honest, I don't want to think very much about this game and this series because it was just brutal from start to finish. There's no title sponsor today, so we will jump right into things. But before we do, shout out as always to anybody watching here live or after the fact. Please, please, please leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe to the channel so you can be notified whenever I go live after every single Angels game. As always, keep supporting the Locked On Angels daily podcast. The Frisch Bros, the Super Halo Bros, they will be back tomorrow to recap this entire series and to talk about the Padres coming to town. But with all that being said, let's jump right into it and talk about, we're going to start with the eighth inning and then get to Griffin Canning's performance, because Canning was dealing. Canning played phenomenally. The pitch count got a little high, a walk, a couple hit by pitches, and he didn't really have his best stuff, ironically. I felt like he wasn't controlling, the control wasn't there from start to finish. At times it was spotty, but nonetheless, Griffin Canning with a great outing, just giving up one run. We'll get to that later, but I want to jump to the eighth inning, because that's when everything changed. It was a 1-0 game. As always, the Angels offense doing nothing. Canning gets taken out back in the seventh inning, I believe. And, getting taken out earlier than the seventh inning because we saw a Hunter Strickland outing. And Hunter Strickland comes out replacing Canning in the seventh inning, and he gets a quick pop out on Ryan Bliss, who we ranted about yesterday. But Strickland comes in the bottom of the seventh, gets one out, and then we go to the eighth because, of course, the Angels offense did nothing. And I don't know how you felt about the decision to take out Strickland after just one batter in the bottom of the seventh to start the top of the eighth with Matt Moore. I get it. Two lefties coming up for the Mariners. It is a close game. The Angels haven't had games like this where you get to really get creative with the bullpen in a nail-biting close game. The rare time where you have that opportunity. And so Ron decides to take out Strickland to start the eighth inning in favor of the lefty Matt Moore. And I don't hate it, to be honest. I don't hate it. Like I said, Angels haven't had many opportunities to have games like this where you're playing chess with the bullpen. But I don't know if it's a no-brainer, but it hurts because Strickland has been your best bullpen pitcher really the entire season. The ERA now jumps well below 2 with that one at-bat and out in the seventh. But nonetheless, Matt Moore comes in with two lefties coming up, and he actually strikes out J.P. Crawford to start the inning. And you're like, okay, Matt Moore, who's been very pedestrian in 2024, if not really bad, the ERA over 6, but he strikes out J.P. Crawford. Then Josh Rojas comes up, and he walks him. 3 balls, none of them really close. 3 fastballs to start the at-bat that missed the zone high and away. Then he gets a fastball for a strike. Then Rojas fouls off a fastball, and then on 3-2, another high fastball. So 6 pitches, 6 fastballs for Matt Moore, and yet a walk. That hurts. And that's when the disaster starts, because after he walks Rojas, Rodriguez comes up, and why not start him off with 2 more fastballs, nowhere near the zone. His up and in on Rodriguez, gets a swinging strike on a changeup, then throws a changeup high and away. Definitely did not mean for that to be there. Gets a called strike on a changeup, a fouled changeup, and then on 3-2, once again, a walk. So you get a leadoff strikeout, but then back-to-back full count walks, and that was enough for Ron Washington to make a change. Interesting. Obviously, you can't feel great about the way Matt Moore is pitching in that moment with back-to-back walks, but it's not like it was come out and throw 4 balls. It was 3 full counts or 2 full counts, and just couldn't shut the door on either of those at bats. But nonetheless, Ron Washington decides to go to Luis Garcia, and the Angel radio broadcast was saying felt a little bit rushed in terms of the decision to bring Garcia in. Did he really have enough time to get warm in the bullpen and come out? I don't know, to be honest. Obviously, we're not there at the stadium watching him get warmed up. It did feel a little quick, did feel a little bit sudden. I think, to be honest, Ron Washington probably expected Rojas to be sat down after Crawford, and then even if Rodriguez gets on with 2 outs and just 1 guy on, then you let Matt Moore keep pitching. But he did not like what he saw. He rushes and brings in Garcia, and then a mixed outing at first from Garcia. You want to feel bad to him to some degree because he comes out maybe a little bit rushed, and he gets a strikeout on Cal Raleigh, falls behind 2-0, but then works back in the count, gets it to 2-1, then it's 3-1, but then he gets a splitter, swing and a miss, and a fastball, or a splitter fouled off and a fastball, swing and a miss. So you're like, okay, nice. Comes in, immediately gets the strikeout. He's done his job. There's 2 outs. Just got to get 1 more, runner on first and second. And he did his job, theoretically, because on the first pitch, although it's a sinker right down the middle and not a good pitch, to be honest, it's a ground ball right to Zach Neto. A little chopper, and Neto, as you saw, if you watched the game, he couldn't make the play. He bobbled it. Not an easy play, not a traditional error where you're just sitting there waiting on the ball and you biff it. He had to charge on this one, but Ty France is not a speed demon, and it felt like Neto rushed it a little bit, unable to field the chopper, 2 shorts, and suddenly the bases are loaded. And that's when disaster strikes. And like I said, it stinks because Garcia technically did his job. He should have 2 outs. He should have gotten those 2 outs, and the inning should be over. But he just unraveled from there because the next at-batter is Luke Raley, who already had a homer in this one, I believe. Was that? I don't even know. We'll go back and check. Maybe it was the other lefty. But he comes in and gets hit by a pitch. It wasn't even close. Garcia, who has been wild at times this season, and he just throws a fastball on, I guess they're calling it a sinker, on 1-1, and it just drills him in the thigh, the hamstring area. Raley turns around, saw it all the way because it wasn't even close, gets drilled, and that was all she wrote because suddenly it's 2-0. You walk in a run on a hit by pitch. Not the first time the Angels have done that. Not the first time in a while either. The bases have been loaded a lot against the Angels recently, and they've walked in runs. They've had hit by pitches for runs recently, and it continued there, hitting Raley. And then it got worse because Mitch Garver, who, let me see the average now, 170 even after this. That's one thing I'll rant about probably later in this show. The Mariners lineup is awful. It's as bad as the Angels, if not worse. And yet, back-to-back games where there's huge innings making the Mariners look like a real good hitting team, which they are certainly not. But Garver comes out with the bases loaded after Garcia just hit a guy, and you can tell Garcia's still flustered because he starts off with 3 balls on 3 sinkers. Only the third one is close. Didn't catch the inside corner, apparently, and it's 3-0. Then you just got to throw in 2 fastballs, 1 a fastball, 1 a sinker, just to get back in the count. But now it's 3-2. The guy's seen 5 fast pitches, 4 sinkers, and a 4-seam. Good chance he's seeing a sinker, right? And surely enough, Garcia throws a sinker probably a little higher than you would like inside, and Garver, is able to rip it down the left field line. He hit it really, really well, 105.6 off the bat, down the left field line, all 3-run score, and this one is basically over. Garcia would end up walking Canzone. Ron Washington would take him out for Jose Suarez. Suarez with one at bat gets out of it, but by then, who cares? The Angels showed some life in the top of the ninth, which I'll get to later. But the moral of the story is this game was decided in the 8th inning, and it's a shame that Griffin Canning will take a loss here. He now falls to 2-5. The ERA is 4.69, which it's not like that's amazing, but we know it was a lot worse earlier in the year. He's been pitching really well as of late, and this was another gem from him. So it's really disappointing that your starting pitcher, who's always up against it because he always knows his lineup is not going to help him, but now he has to deal with the fact that when he gets taken out, it's not even close, and his lineup doesn't even have a chance to suddenly bail him out. Instead, the bullpen absolutely blows it. Statistically wise, it's going to look like it was, sort of everybody's fault. I don't know who deserves the most blame. Probably Luis Garcia, to be honest. But it's going to say that Canning gave up just one earned run. I think that's totally valid on that one home run. Matt Moore will get 2 runs allowed, neither earned, with his 2 walks, and then Luis Garcia with 2 runs, neither of his earned, with the hit by pitch, and then the 3 RBI double. Jose Suarez, of course, getting that 1 out as well. But yeah, the box score is going to make it look like it was Moore, Garcia who were the culprits, and that's pretty accurate. Maybe Ron Washington should leave Hunter Strickland in. I don't know. In the moment, it made sense. Lefties coming up. Matt Moore, at least even in this season where he struggled, maybe he can do something against lefties here, but no. Ends up walking the second lefty, Rojas, and that's when the disaster begins. So we're going to take our first break here on the Locked On Angels Postcast. The Angels fall 5-1 because of a disastrous 8th inning where a phenomenal Griffin Canning start is erased by a 4-run bottom of the 8th for the Mariners. When we come back, we will discuss that Canning start a little bit deeper and also talk about the Angels lineup, who really should have had what would have been their 20th straight inning without a run if it weren't for a fluky 9th inning run. But nonetheless, just 1 run in the last 2 games and really shut down all series by a really good Mariners rotation. We'll take our first break, and when we come back, we will discuss all of that. You're listening to Locked On Angels Postcast with me, Gavin Carlson, coming at you live from the Locked On Los Angeles YouTube channel. Today's show is brought to you by Policygenius. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm only 22 years old, and I've hopefully got a lot of life left to live. Knock on wood. You probably heard that. But that doesn't mean I haven't thought about life insurance, because life insurance is such an important safety net for you personally and for your family. Now, the issue is trying to find the right policy on your own can be time-consuming and overwhelming. My parents have told me. My sister's like 4 years older than me. She's starting to think about it, and it's annoying. And that's why you should use Policygenius, the country's leading online insurance marketplace. With Policygenius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million worth of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. Now, let me tell you what makes Policygenius special. With Policygenius, you can talk to a team of award-winning agents who will walk you through the process step by step. You can easily compare quotes from America's top insurers in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. And most importantly, so important, Policygenius gives you unbiased advice from a licensed expert support team because they have zero incentive to recommend one insurer over another. That is huge. So, check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policygenius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonmlb or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonmlb. Today's show is also brought to you by Yahoo Finance, because now when it comes to your financial future, you think you've done it all. Maybe you've even talked about life insurance. You've certainly saved, you've researched, you've invested all that you can. But now you need to take those investments to the next level by using what every financial great uses, Yahoo Finance. I'm a biz econ major at UCLA. I think if you watch this podcast regularly, you may know that by now. And certainly in my classes, we've looked at and used Yahoo Finance just to see financial news, because Yahoo Finance is the #1 finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analyst ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. Securely link your brokerage accounts for a unified view of your wealth, including 401k and other investments. A comprehensive perspective is what sets apart great investors, and it's how Yahoo Finance ensures you have the insight to look at your wealth in its entirety. So, for a comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com, the #1 financial destination. yahoofinance.com. One more time, the #1 financial destination, yahoofinance.com. We are back here live on the Locked On Los Angeles YouTube channel. This is the Locked On Angels Postcast as the Angels get swept in Seattle to fall to 21-38 thanks to a 5-1 defeat. If you were with me yesterday, we talked about a really brutal 9-0 shutout loss in which the Angels lineup did absolutely nothing. And for the most part, it was the same thing today. The scoreboard, the final score, will say 5-1, thanks to a fluky 9th inning. But let's be honest, the Angels really deserved to have back-to-back shutout losses and what would have been 20 straight innings without a run. Luis Castillo is phenomenal pitcher. We know that. The ERA now falls to under 3. Ironically, because this Mariners lineup is typically, and not in this series, but typically not good at scoring runs, second to last in Major League Baseball coming into this one, Castillo was 4-6 with 4-6 coming into this one. Now he's 5-6 despite having the sub-3 ERA. 5-6. So if he was on the Angels staff, he'd fit right in of having good performances and not being rewarded. But he was great in this one. I was actually watching the Seattle TV broadcast, and they were saying, oh, not even his best stuff today. And yet, you don't really need your best stuff when you're going against the Angels. Luis Rengifo with one of the few hits for the Angels, just 4 hits for the Angels in this one. He continues to have 1-for-4 outings. A few games ago was 2-for-4s and some 3-for-4s. You can say he's struggling, quote unquote, a little bit, that he continues to go 1-for-4. We'll talk about my PrizePicks slip later because I had him to have a hit, and that certainly worked out for me. But the average falls to 322. He's still been great. He still should be traded at the deadline for something. But 1-for-4 for Rengifo. The only other hits coming from Taylor Ward, who goes 1-for-3 and had a walk as well. There were a couple walks. Kevin Pillar and Logan O'Hoppe both getting walks as well. Pillar had a hit. He had the lone run. He did not have the hit. The hit came from Zach Neto in the top of the 9th, an RBI to knock in Pillar. He was 1-for-4. And Kyron Paris 1-for-2 and a walk. That's pretty encouraging. He came into this one, I think, sub 120, maybe even sub 115. Now he's hitting 136 thanks to that base hit and the walk as well. But the Angels offense, it did nothing. And it never really looks like it's going to put up much of a fight. When you don't have, when you can't even string together an inning where you have a couple hits in a row to even remotely threaten the starting pitcher, it's not even worth watching closely. Like, of course, I'm going to watch every game closely for you guys. But if you're a fan, I don't blame you if you've got this game on in the background while you're doing other stuff, especially on a Sunday at 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m. I'm sure you got other stuff going on in your life. And as much as we would all prefer to be able to sit down on our couch, put our feet up, sip on a cold one, whatever it is, and watch a good baseball game with a good baseball team. We all know that's not what we're getting in 2024, and we're not even getting entertaining games. I'd rather have, as much as it's close and it's 1-0 until that 8th inning, I'd almost rather have a 7-4 deficit going into the 8th inning or something, because at least your team put on some runs. Sure, they're down 3 instead of this one being down 1-0 for the most part, but at least your team shows some life. And as much as it's great to see Griffin Canning deal, it just sucks to see this lineup continue to be non-existent. And it also sucks for Griffin Canning. I want to dive into his start a little bit more because he was great. And he wasn't really on his A game. He wasn't really that efficient at times, but he knows how to get out of any jam he's put in. Luckily, this lineup is not good, so he wasn't put in many jams. Once again, if you don't know the stat line, 4 hits, 1 run, an earned run, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. but the one run coming on a fourth inning home run. And that's what I want to talk about now, because that was really the only notable thing for the first 7 innings. And it all started with a Kyle Rayleigh base hit to lead off the inning. 2 balls on 2 off-speed pitches, not really near the zone, and then a really, really bad 2-0 pitch, a changeup right down the middle that Rayleigh rips. And I say rips, but it was a ground ball. He didn't really rip it at all. A ground ball against the shift. It just came 58 miles an hour off the bat, and he's able to get on base. Then it looks like Canning gets out of it like he's done so much this season, like he's done so well even in this outing, as he gets a ground ball double play. And I was making a joke when I was watching this one with someone next to me. I was like, that's like the most exciting thing that's happened in the past 2 games for the Angels. Like, we turned a double play. Like, woo. Like, Ty France, very, very slow. I don't really know how he didn't beat that one out, to be honest. But a chopper to Rengifo at third base. He throws it over to Kyron Paris at second, who obviously throws it to first, out to Willie Calhoun at first for the double play. And I'm thinking, woo, this is like the best thing we've seen in 2 games, was a double play turned, where Kyron Paris, a young guy, didn't make a mistake. Mind you, earlier in the game, oh man, do I even want to get into this? I'll get into it, actually, now that I think about it. Bottom of the second, two outs and a runner on base, and there's a ground ball to Kyron Paris. And there's some confusion because Willie Calhoun and Griffin Canning are kind of both at first base, and Kyron Paris decides to throw it between both of them. Now, I think, excuse me, as I'm still battling the cold, I think he thought Canning was going to cover first base, was on his way to the base, running towards it, as you see me trying to show with my hands. Canning was running to first base, and I guess Kyron Paris was like, I'd rather lead a running Griffin Canning than throw it to a stationary Willie Calhoun at first. I hope he didn't see Willie Calhoun at first and just strictly thought he was throwing it to a running Griffin Canning. But nonetheless, he throws it right between the two as Canning stops running towards the bag, realizing Willie Calhoun is there, and it's a throwing error from Kyron Paris. So that's why, but that's part of the reason why when they turned that double play in the bottom of the fourth, I'm like, oh, how nice to see Rengifo and Kyron Paris not screw something up. We've seen it so much. But that brief bit of joy is suddenly killed by a not so good pitch by Griffin Canning once again. He falls behind 1-0 to Luke Raleigh and then throws 2 strikes on 2 pitches that ironically were not in the zone, a curveball above the letters, and then a changeup outside, both not in the zone according to MLB.com, but both called strikes. And so Canning's up 1-2 with 2 outs in the fourth. He's been cruising. You think he's going to cruise again, but he throws a sinker right down the middle. And when I say scorched, this ball from Mr. Luke was crushed. 110.8 exit velo. It was a low liner that barely got over the wall. That ball was barely over the wall for its entire flight, but it was able to pop over the wall. Just 354, but I'm not going to say that was a undeserved home run because he absolutely crushed it. And that's all Griffin Canning gave up in this one, was that home run. It's just so demoralizing when your offense does nothing and your pitcher throws one bad pitch and it happens to be enough to give you a loss, because that's really Griffin Canning's only mistake of the whole game, and yet he picks up his 5th defeat because of that one pitch. So bummed for Griffin Canning. The lineup does nothing once again. I guess if you want positives, Kyron Paris, at least he knew what a hit was, and at least in the 9th inning, we got an RBI from Zach Neto. We got a few comments here. Anaheim Angel back again. Appreciate you being back in here. He says his thigh got an RBI, talking about that Luis Garcia hit by pitch hitting the thigh. Was nice to see Canning go a little deeper. I agree. Wish the defense and bullpen could step it up. Absolutely agree. Specifically the bullpen in this one really costing Griffin Canning a win, to be honest, because if the bullpen plays well, maybe that 9th inning is a game-tying run, not a useless run in the top of the 9th. Sega Boy W, who continues to be back here, shout out to you as well. You two are 2 of my most loyal viewers and listeners, so appreciate both of you. Sega Boy says it is mind-blowing how the kids, Neto and Ohapi, are the only ones holding their weight build, I see. The only one holding their weight build around those dudes. Yeah, I mean, no one's really playing well other than them. Good to see Neto get the RBI. He's still hitting 250. Nice to see the RBI from him. He also had a bunt that I thought he was going to beat out. It was a really solid bunt just like a quick drag bunt down the third base line. Really good bare hand play by the third baseman because Neto by half a stride was beaten out. So he really could have had 2 hits. But I agree. Ohapi, I saw today, the average hard hit velocity or hard hit percentage is like 48%, and he's at 58%. I think it was something like that. So he's 10 percentage points better than the average hitter in terms of hard hit balls. That's a great stat. It means you're squaring up the ball a lot, Logan Ohapi. We know he's been hot in terms of getting home runs every once in a while. But yeah, he's been good, and that's great because I know he's always dealing with a lot. Being the catcher with this staff, he's at times said it's difficult. He seems a little overwhelmed at times trying to handle it all, but he certainly has been doing it. He had a couple nice blocks today. There weren't any wild pitches or anything like that. Any pass balls, I mean. So, yes, proud of Ohapi, proud of Neto because they are the only ones that are both hitting and playing the field consistently and not running into foolish outs consistently because don't get me started on the veterans, Rengifo and Taylor Ward, making errors in the field and on the bases. Kyron Paris continues to be questionable in all aspects, but he's young, so you give him a pass. But nonetheless, totally agree. Both hitting and fielding and base running, Neto and Ohapi have been solid. Anaheim Angel responded to Sega saying it's going to be nice watching them develop these next couple of years. Yes, it will. At least those are a few guys we can get excited about. One guy we can't is Joe Adell, who at this point I'm going to have to start ripping into as much as Mickey Moniak because at least Moniak strikes out once when he goes 0 for 4. Joe Adell goes 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts again. After the break, I'm going to tell you how many strikeouts Joe Adell has in recent games because it is actually staggering how much this guy cannot hit righties and can't even make contact against righties. So we're going to take our last break. As always, we are going over time because that's what we do here. Because even when they stink, even when they're 21-38, I love talking to you about our Angels. We're going to take one more break here on the Locked On Angels Postcast. And when we come back, we'll quickly talk about Joe Adell and what Ron Washington needs to do with him because he continues to be really concerning. We'll also talk about that 9th inning, and then we'll quickly, rapid fire preview the Padres. That's all after we take our last break here on the Locked On Angels Postcast. Now, today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn. Now, I have a question for you. You've heard this question before if you watched this show a lot, but I'll ask it to you anyways. Are you struggling to close deals? B2B selling is tougher than ever, and that's why I want to tell you about the LinkedIn Sales Navigator. I've said it so many times. I'm a huge fan of LinkedIn. I'm 22 years old. I've already had a job where it was a recruiting firm, and I had to use LinkedIn to recruit other candidates. I'm also 22 years old, graduating from college in like 12 days. Crazy. Something like that, 2 weeks. And so I use LinkedIn all the time to look for employment opportunities. But I'm going to tell you about LinkedIn Sales Navigator, another great aspect of the platform. It's a sales intelligence platform that helps professionals effectively prospect and engage high-value customers, drive higher revenue, and increase sales performance. The Sales Navigator helps you target the right buyers, surface key signals such as job changes or which accounts you should prioritize, and shows you hidden allies so you can find those buyers that are most likely to convert. Fueled by LinkedIn's 1 billion member platform, including me, Sales Navigator gives you the most up-to-date first-party data, enabling you to unlock conversations with the people that matter. Right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/lockedon. That is linkedin.com/lockedon for a 60-day free trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Just go to linkedin.com/lockedon and get started. We are wrapping it up here live on the Locked On Los Angeles YouTube channel. This is the Locked On Angels Postcast. Thank you for making this place to hang out after every single Angels game. I think the Angels are now 2-9 in the postcast era, so they are not making it easy on me, and they are not making it easy on Angels fans. They tried to make it easy on us in the 9th inning with a slight bit of joy. I'm going to quickly tell you about the bottom of the top of the 9th. If you didn't see it, because they were already talking about if the Angels get shut out here in the 9th inning, that's 20 straight innings without a run and obviously back-to-back blowout shutouts. But ironically, the Angels get a bit of a gift because after a leadoff ground out from Willie Calhoun. Kevin Pillar walks. Then he gets to second on a little mistake. And then there's a field error, which moves. They're calling it defensive indifference, by the way, on the Pillar. He just stole second base. It's hardly a mistake. You're up 5-0 if you're the Mariners. Who cares? But Pillar walks into second base after walking to first. And then there's an error. Logan O'Hoppe, ground ball to the shortstop, J.P. Crawford, and he just absolutely airmails the throw to first base. So, despite it really should be 2 outs and Joe Adell coming up, instead there's 1 out. And thank goodness there's only 1 out because shocker, breaking news, Joe Adell strikes out again. And in a second, I'm going to tell you how much he's been striking out as of late because it is staggering. But Adell strikes out. Luckily, that's only 2 outs thanks to the error. And then Zach Neto gets a ground ball up the middle for an RBI. Good to see that for Neto. He did not have a hit until that. A good hit, too, 95.7 off the bat on the ground ball to the, in between second and third, or the second baseman and shortstop, and he's able to knock in a run on a hanging knuckle curve right there. So good for Neto. Hopefully that breeds some confidence going into the Padres series. Someone who will not be having confidence, despite hitting a grand slam just 2 games prior to this one, is Joe Adell. And I'm going to tell you why, because it is actually unbelievable how much this guy has been struggling as of late. We all know that earlier in the month of May, there was no better hitter against lefties than Joe Adell. But not many lefties seen as of late, and boy, is he showing what happens when that's the case. In the first 2 games of June now, today and yesterday, 0 for 7 with 6 strikeouts. I'm just going to pause for a second and let you guys comprehend that. 0 for 7 with 6 strikeouts in his first 7 at-bats of June. Ooh, and that's coming off a May where he had 33 strikeouts in 90 plate at-bats. But that doesn't tell you the full story because recently it's been really, really bad. Now, of course, he had the pinch hit grand slam in Seattle, and he didn't have a strikeout because it was just a pinch hit. But in the games before that, 2 strikeouts and an 0 for 4 against the Yankees, 3 strikeouts and an 0 for 3 against the Yankees, a strikeout and an 0 for 3, 3 strikeouts and an 0 for 4, a strikeout and an 0 for 4, a strikeout and a 1 for 4, 2 strikeouts and an 0 for 4, 2 strikeouts and an 0 for 5, and then a single strikeout in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 straight games before that. Then he had 2 strikeouts, another strikeout, 2 strikeouts. He's basically striking out every single time he comes up to hit. And it's getting really, really concerning because this was supposed to be the year that Ron Washington kept saying, I'm going to give this guy a chance finally to regularly play baseball, and we're just regularly seeing strikeouts as a result. So very concerning. And like Sega Boy said earlier, really Neto and O'Hoppe, the only young guys that you can feel really great about, because Joe Adell is not holding his end of the bargain whatsoever. And we know how bad Mickey Moniak has been. He's now 167. We know how bad Karen Paris is. He's 136. But with all that being said, a lucky 9th inning run, avoids a shutout. I guess that's the only positive. Joe Adell might need to sit down for an entire series because it is just getting hard to watch. And real quick, even though I'm already over time per usual, 2 quick things. My prize picks did hit because, shocker, I picked Luis Castillo to have a great game, and he did. So that hit the fantasy score. And then I had Rengifo over on getting basically a base hit, just over 0.5 on the total bases, and he did that with a base hit. So the Angels continue to lose, but at least my prize picks won today. And we'll wrap things up one more time with a quick preview of tomorrow's game against the Padres, back at home, back in Anaheim, where the Angels have been even worse than they've been on the road. They will have Matt Waldron pitching for the Padres. Coming into this one, he is 3 for 3 and 5 with a 4.26 ERA in 11 starts, and he throws a knuckle. He throws a knuckleball. 37% of the time he throws a knuckleball. That is his most used pitch. He throws a four-seamer just 23% of the time, a sweeper 18% of the time, a sinker 15% of the time, and then every once in a while, just 6% of the time, he'll throw in a cutter. But yes, tomorrow we're going to see a knuckleball, basically 1 out of every 3 pitches, and I'm very interested to see how a struggling young lineup will react to that. But should be interesting with that. As for the Angels, they will have Tyler Anderson on the mound, and we know how good he has been of late. So hopefully, please, the Angels can maybe win a baseball game tomorrow. I think they have the advantage in the pitching matchup. Probably not in terms of hitting, obviously, but anything can happen. And so tomorrow night, the Angels will play the Padres, and when the game ends, as always, I will be here live on the Locked On Los Angeles YouTube channel to break it all down. So we're going to wrap this one up. Shout out once again to Anaheim Angel for being here, commenting, and for Sega Boy for commenting. Shout out to the people that have been watching this one live, and to anybody who watches or listens after the fact. I love you just as much. So leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe if you aren't already. Follow me on Twitter /X at Gavin Carlson _. Let me know how I'm doing there as well. But the Angels fall 5-1. The Angels swept in Seattle. And please, can we get something to cheer about starting tomorrow night? Hopefully. Either way, I'll be here live on the Locked On Los Angeles YouTube channel right after the game. So, Halo Nation, this was the Locked On Angels Postcast. I'm Gavin Carlson, and I'll catch you all tomorrow.